So I just went through a run with this build on Shyvana, but we can go through a build breakdown and look at more of the different relics that can work with her and with her constellations and deck. Just before we go into it though, I do not play a whole lot of Shyvana, so I might not know all her different builds. For me, her gameplay is not the most exciting. It is very much a win more gameplay style. It's hard to make comebacks when you are behind. It really requires killing the enemy units and having your board already be stronger than the enemy board, and then once it is, you scale up pretty quickly because you basically scale off killing their units and getting fury procs. But if you have a hard time killing their units, then they are going to generally overwhelm you and you have trouble coming back. So it's a struggle deck, in my opinion, and it also relies a lot on drafting dragons. If you fail to draft a dragon successfully or you're not offered dragons during your draft, it can be really difficult to be successful with this. So anyway, let's talk about her constellations. She has, from her 2-star, all allied dragons have fury, which pretty much all dragons have fury anyway. So, but this makes sure that's the case, I guess. And when your fury buffs are granted to all dragons, and that's all dragons in play and in hand. So the +1/+1 procs from fury go to both the your board and your hand, which is nice if you have dragons, as long as you've drafted dragons. And then when you summon a dragon, it strikes the weakest enemy, so very nice there. Her 4-star is just tough. I would prefer it if this was, everything in your deck is dragons. That would be a lot better. But yeah, it's definitely, if you see the everything in your deck is dragons power, I recommend picking that up. Although, keep in mind, if you do pick up that power, it will come into effect after this power. So when you summon units that are not inherently dragons, they will not trigger this strike. So just keep that in mind when you are getting those powers. It will not do that. Call of the Brood is her 6-star. I don't have this one. It is quite good if you have drafted a lot of dragons. When allies attack, you draw a unit. If it's a dragon, you summon it attacking. So this is kind of like Pike's. She's basically like a worse version of Pike, I would say. Pike, when he has, basically his whole deck becomes lurkers, and when you attack, you draw a unit, or draw the top card of your deck, and if it's a lurker, you summon it attacking. So very, very similar sort of gameplay in that. But her bonus stars are very important. She has, for your support champions, they get Dragon's Tooth, which makes them a dragon with fury. Her Strafing Strike, which this is a spell you get when Shyvana's leveled up and she's attacking in. This gets Tear of the Goddess, and actually her thing when she attacks, normally it gives you a 2-cost Strafing Strike, so with Tear of the Goddess it actually becomes free. And then Dragon Followers you acquire in Adventures have Nomad Medallion, so -2 cost, really good for drafting dragons as long as you're offered dragons in your draft. Definitely look for dragons in the store. When you go to the store things, pick them up. Also, it's good to save your rerolls for your mid drafts and stuff like that. Try to pick up dragons as you're going through. Really good there. Confront, which is her champion spell, as well as a spell in her deck, gets Solid Spear, which grants allies a permanent +2/+2 when you target them with it. This can be quite good. This is the build I was showcasing before this, was leveraging this so that you could basically infinitely cast this on your units. And there's also a modification from leveling her up where you get barrier on your units you target with confront, so you can give them both barrier and +2/+2 every time you target them with it. So very good thing to build around. Then yeah, she gets some additional regen and some additional support card items. Nothing else really to build around there, but this strafing strike and the confront, both important for build around for relics. So let's look at Shyvana. As mentioned, when she levels up, she does get that fleeting 2-cost strafing strike. So with the bonus, it's a 0 cost. This strafing strike allows you and an enemy to strike each other, and then if you're a dragon, you heal for 5. This heal is important because if you want to use the Celestial Staff, this is a way you can trigger a rally. So Celestial Staff lets you, each round the first time a damaged unit is healed, then if you don't already have the attack token, you rally. So yeah, if you attack in with Shyvana and then you use your strafing strike to attack with something, you will get a rally off that. That's not an easy way to generate a strafing strike on your opponent's turn, so it's hard to trigger the rally on your opponent's turn. But if you do find some other way through your draft or whatever to heal, then you can get the rally triggered there as well. But that would require drafting, and the only synergy there is with her strafing strike. As mentioned in her starting deck, we have 2 spells. We have Confront and we have Molten Breath. So Confront is her champion spell, and this lets you give an ally challenger, and if it's a dragon, you draw 1. So that's why here with this build, we were using Echoing Spirit, which makes it so you have more copies of your champion, and their champion spell costs less. So that makes this go from 2 cost to 1 cost. And then we have a good chance with Searing Brilliance to hit our Confront, making it go from 2 cost to 1 cost as well. And if it's a Shyvana copy, then it goes from 1 cost with the Echoing Spirit to 0 cost. So we can be playing a 0 cost that if we target one of our non-dragons, it draws us 1 card and gives it barrier and +2/+2. And if we target a dragon, it draws us 2 cards and gives us barrier and +2/+2. So really good way to just like keep drawing cards, keep giving your units barrier. You could also make it so you can block better when opponents are attacking in. You're less likely to lose your board, and you can get to the point where you're scaling more. Beast Within, very good with her because hopefully you're drafting a lot of things with the subtype of dragon, so that gives a lot of your deck +1/+1. And Overwhelm, so really good, especially since you're, getting a lot of stats from Fury bonuses for all your dragons. Then, you scale up a lot better, and the Overwhelm helps you get through and deal damage to their nexus as well. So, with this build, I was able to do a 6.5 star Aurelian Soul adventure, and I don't have her 6th star, so this is very successful. It definitely has its own struggles as part of it, but this does work. Then what are some alternate substitutes here? So as we mentioned, instead of going for her Confront, you can leverage her Strafing Strike by using the Celestial Staff, giving her Spell Shield and Challenger, also very good. She does have a signature relic. This is if you buy her supporter pack or whatever you want to call it, you get the I am a dragon. If I'm a dragon, I have +4/+0 and Overwhelm. So this makes her a 7/4. And otherwise, it gives the character +2/+0 and Fury. But this, keep in mind, only affects when you drop the character. It doesn't get those bonuses just in your hand, similar to this. So unfortunately, you cannot trigger Starforged Gauntlets with this. So if you want to trigger Starforged Gauntlets, the way to do it with her would be that you have to get her either power or defense up to 8, but even with 2 +4 attack things or +2 attack things, that would only get you to 7 here, so that won't work. So you would have to use like a something that gives you like +1/+1 and a luminous orb, or something else like that. There's a couple different things, like you could use like Jace's Hextech battery plus luminous orb, or something else. But I think trying to go for mana gem on her, probably not worth it in general. It would take up too many relic slots to try to get 1 mana gem. Her deck is a bit expensive, so trying to get units out cheaper is a good thing to do. But yeah, you tend to just want to draft dragons that are a bit cheaper and have that -2 cost from her Star of whatever it was, the Star of Discovery or something, or which one was it? The yeah, Star of Discovery, Nomad's Medallion. Yeah, so that one, very important for being able to toss units out cheaper, since trying to get more mana gems with her is pretty difficult. If you don't have Beast Within, you can use Cruel Experiments to get bonus Overwhelm. So this is a way to do that. And yeah, that can be successful. You do scale your power and whatnot quite a bit just through those Fury attacks. So Chosen by the Stars is also a reasonable combat option. You can use some other items to try to boost up her power, but in general, she also does generate the Strafing Strike when she's attacking in and she's leveled up, so that's a created card. That works for Fated and Augment, plus her champion spell targets units. So when you're using Confront on her, that'll also give her additional plus bonuses and whatnot. So this is a good way to get her a bunch of stats and regeneration, and you can scale her pretty well. Disciple of Shadows can be decent just because you need to get out dragons early on, so making her cheaper. And if you have, weaker units, if she ends up killing them with this, it will proc Fury, so it's not too much of a loss that your units die to this, and just being able to toss her out cheaper and whatnot is decent. So don't ignore this this relic. This is very, very helpful. Another way to cheat her out is through Frozen Tomb. The disadvantage from Frozen Tomb is that she will just drop with her base stats that she has here. She won't get any of the bonuses from like the Fury procs. If you have her in your hand and you're tossing down other dragons and they're killing units as they're dropping, they'll get Fury procs and give her a bunch of extra stats. She won't be able to benefit from any of those extra stats. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you do end up using Frozen Tomb. There is a little bit of anti-synergy there. She will still strike, though, when she's summoned, so if you are using Frozen Tomb, getting some extra stats on her through other relics can be very useful. Her starting deck, so in terms of units cheaper than her, she doesn't have any dragons cheaper than her. Her main unit here is a 3 cost that's cheaper. So if you use Found Fortune, you would only draw this. I don't think that's really worthwhile to go for, but if you do want that sort of tempo of getting 2 units when you drop her, this is a option for you. That could be reasonable with Disciple of Shadows plus that, just so you get a reasonable tempo swing when you drop her on the board. But for higher rank adventures, I don't think that's going to work out very well. More things with just combat stats are fine. You know, like living weapon or if you're cleaving axe, both fine. She wants to be attacking in a lot. Also, Death's Foil, great on her if you just want to be able to attack in freely. This will also make her invulnerable, so if you do use her Strafing Strike, which hopefully if you have that other star will be free, then she'll be invulnerable while she's attacking in, so you can use that against any unit without risk of her dying, do damage to the unit, make favorable trades out of it, especially if you use like Challenger or something like that with this. You can either use the Pike Relic, which I wouldn't recommend the Pike Relic. I would say that using the Darius one is better if you have it. Or if you have some other way of getting her Challenger, like Chosen by the Stars, I would say that's better. Or using her Champion spell, Confront, giving her, extra stats as well as Challenger. But you can challenge into a unit, you'll be invulnerable, then Strafing Strike that unit, make sure that you can kill it. Death's Foil can be very good on her. For similar reasons, if you don't have Death's Foil, getting the Storm Razor here, giving her Quick Attack. It is very easy to get her Challenger with her Champion spells, so Challenger plus Quick Attack is always a great combination. If you don't have the more expensive relics, that's always a good way to go. Then, other things in here. We already went over Searing Brilliance. Let's see. There isn't too much that's crazy here for her on terms of these things. The spells in her deck, as mentioned, are Confront and the one that strikes 2 units. It's a slow spell. I don't think beyond going for just like the free Confront rotation, beyond that, I don't think it's too worthwhile to focus on her spells. You can use the Grand Generals if you just want to make sure that you have a thing where you can make someone on your board invulnerable at burst speed. So that's, the Grand Generals. Can be worthwhile for some builds, but I wouldn't focus too much on that unless you're doing like the sort of Searing Brilliance, Echoing Spirit. I don't think focusing too much on her champion spell is worthwhile otherwise. Berserker's Buckle is quite good on her. If you are using like the Strafing Strikes and stuff like that, then that does help you deal more, you're essentially doing more combats, she's taking damage, you get more stats. This will help beef her up. I would certainly want to use this in combination with something that gives you Overwhelm or Regeneration, something like Chosen by the Stars. This could be a very viable build if you have Chosen by the Stars. Anything beyond that, Guardian Angel's fine on her. When she pops out of Guardian Angel, she will strike. Again, this will just use her base attack. But if you, have multiple Guardian Angels, and if you have something like Draconic Runes, this will be effective. I think you do have to make sure the ordering is correct. I'm not 100% sure on that. But where is Draconic Runes? I should just search it. But here we go. This will make her strike for 7 instead of 3. So, if she dies, you get 2 more copies of her. Each of them will strike for 7. So that can be very effective to leverage things like that. Just other ways to have her be resummoned onto the board are great. And you can even use something like this. This would make her, each copy would strike twice for 3 damage. So you're doing very similar sort of stuff. And if they have a wide board with low health creatures, this is going to kill a lot of things. You can also just use multiple Stalker's Blades on her, also with other combat relics and whatnot. Try to get her stats up to be a bit higher. I normally never use this, but sometimes I did earlier on my free-to-play account. I did actually use this to get her a little bit more power to try to get units down and try to get control of the board once I drop her down, because she does struggle with the early game. She has no real powerful units. So once you drop her, you really need that tempo swing. So doing something like this, you basically get, a 5/5 that strikes 3 units, or the weakest unit, 3 times. If the first strike doesn't kill it, then it's going to strike again. And, eventually you'll get Fury procs and potentially kill multiple units. So this is very viable for trying to get that tempo and things like that. Not too much else on the blue relic side. I wouldn't say there's too many other build arounds for her. We did mention Overwhelm already. Troll King's Crown is a good substitute for using the Beast Within. If you don't have the Beast Within is obviously way better because there's lots of dragons in her deck. But if you don't have it, Troll King's Crown's a fine way to get Overwhelm for your board. If you're using mostly green relics, then, Banshee's Veil, Ginsu's Rage Blade, Storm Razor, these are going to be the best things for her. Yeah, that's about it. Anyway, again, I don't play a whole lot of Shyvana, so it's her deck, I think, is quite difficult, but if you do have some powerful relics, it can make her much more viable. So hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.